minus 1. So since we start from 0, so 0 pe we will find Maruti, on 1 we will find Hyundai, on 2 we will find Ford. There is no such literal index 3 that we need to say less than equal to 3, right? It is only less than 3. Yes, so we see many people are joining in now. All right, so we have Bala Shiva, we have Joyful Charan. Good evening to all of you. Yes, so indeed, the CC is not available for this video. Maybe YouTube doesn't provide that for live streams, or I'm not sure about it. But yes, it should have been beneficial. Coming back, so I is 0. It goes till uh, the second index. That's what we wanted to do, and we want I to be incremented after the end of each loop. So we will say we start off here. So we say simply we see out. We see out what we take cars, which is the name of our array, right? This is a variable. An array is a variable for us now, and we want to print its 0th index. So we will go for I, so that it becomes generalized. Maybe in the next loop it will print 1, in the next loop it will print 2, and so on, right? Depending on the length of the array. So all right, yes. So is there any issue? Yes, we should close this. Integer main, we have declared the for loop. For loop is done with. Now we simply need to return 0 since this is the main controller. Now once we run it, we will be able to see Maruti, Hyundai, Ford as the output. Okay, so that's all in all about what the array is supposed to be. Okay, now okay, so yes, good evening. Good evening to all the people who are joining in now. So just for a quick recap, we are today planning to solve multiple questions, okay, like problem statements. Before we could begin that, we are addressing some facts like what is an array to begin with, right? We discussed arrays could be dynamic and static in nature. So this is one static array, and this is how arrays work, okay? And that's how we can retrieve elements which are stored in the array. So that's really important for us to know that how these things work, right? So if you have any doubt till this point, we can always look into it in the chat. Now, sometimes even if you omit this point, suppose I don't even write 3 over here, and I just run this, so in the output you see it still works, code execution is successful. So it doesn't mean that this becomes dynamic in a way. Basically, C++ will automatically allocate 3 over here. Okay, so that's the main idea here. So see, we have to make it a practice that whenever we are working with dynamic static arrays, it is important to mention the size over there, right? All right, cool. All right, so yeah, size dot underscore t found is equals to long text dot find string. Please explain this part from yesterday's class. So what you can do is, Ritu, maybe you can share me a little bigger part of this snippet. Maybe you can share me the code share. Like go to the code share, paste the entire code. I'll quickly look into where this line is, and we are trying to find string in long text. Like it's like it looks like keyboard. We can check that. Now coming back again, so when we have to work with dynamic arrays, okay, so dynamic arrays are something which is useful for us when we are not sure that what exactly is the size that we will store, right? So first of all, that's one part. Again, I'll just quickly share this reference with you, okay? I'm not sure exactly where you will be pointing it to this code. I'll just quickly check that for you later on, okay? Now let us for now stay here. Meanwhile, you can share me the exact code where the problem is. Okay. So can you please repeat why for loop means sir, can you please repeat why for loop means why we giving such a values for string? Is it a size? I not able to mark attendance. Okay, in for loop. Basically, I'm not able to understand, like, you're talking about this particular for loop. I'm not able to get your question correctly. I'll just try to reread it once again. Repeat why for loop means why we giving such a value for string. Is it a size? Uh, I'm not sure how does this match here or what you're asking for. Okay, maybe you can come back. Now again, so the point which is important that I was mentioning here is that maybe sometimes we want to work with arrays which are more dynamic. So how do you build something like that? So we have a built-in class known as vectors. Okay, so we have to include that if we have to make dynamic arrays. So we will include vector right over here. Okay, now supposedly if I have to add maybe more cars in future over here. So rather than a string of arrays, we will declare a vector first, that this is a vector of string, and maybe we'll call it cars. Okay. So this time there's no need to open these square brackets. Okay. So you want me to explain the for loop part over here, right? Okay, I'll explain you that for loop part over here. All right. So we have vector of string car. Okay. Remember, this is how we declare a vector. Now we are talking about a vector this time. So we follow by vector followed by the data type. Okay. Then the vector name. We do not have the square bracket here. And then we go for the values as it is. Now, suppose if I have to add something, okay. So since let us add something into our vector post its creation. Okay. See now, how do we do that? So basically, we will simply call cars. Cars is our vector, and we will use a pushback function which will add something at the last index. Okay. Maybe we want to add, say, Kia, which is a brand which has come up now, right? So we'll say cars dot pushback. Okay. Now again, now this time, if you see, we cannot work with this condition because if we work with this condition, it becomes rigid. It will only work till index less than 3. It will never print Kia for us, right? So what we will do is rather than that, we will use a modified version for string uh, car, which belongs to car. Okay. So for car in car, so this is again like a variable. It could be anything. It could be like for X or for I or for object, whatever you want to name your iterable. Okay. So it is like for I in the array. Okay. So for object in array. So for string car in cars. So remember, we are declaring a temporary variable. Remember how we declared the previous for loop. Let me reach there. So if you see, we declared integer I, right? So rather than integer, we are declaring string I. Okay, so string I, and we will use colon, which is syntax to say for I in cars. Okay, now when we see out I, it means that we are printing each string object inside the cars vector. Okay, so this is how it will work. And again, if we look at this code carefully, we will observe that we have now made our code dynamic in nature. Now what is dynamic in nature? Let us understand that part. Okay, so for an example, we have our bank accounts, right? It could be a saving account, as simple as that. Now, when we use a saving account and we have a certain value in it, okay, to begin with, we started our account with 5,000 rupees. Now, if we are transacting with it, okay, maybe tomorrow we want to add some more money into our bank. we add 10,000 rupees. So we need not create another variable, okay, and by the value of new money and merge it with the previous variable, which is the old money. And every time we keep on transacting, we keep on getting new variables, right? That's not the ideal approach. Ideally, everything should be updated in the dynamic memory itself, right? So wherever the old variable was placed, so that variable should be updated now with the changes. So that's what dynamic nature would mean, right? So in the same sense, if we create an array, it's static in nature. It means that if we have created an array which will contain Maruti, Hyundai, and Ford, it contains that. It cannot now add Kia because it has been already initialized in the memory. Maybe you can create a new array. Maybe you can update the same array with the new values by killing or replacing the previous values. But that is not dynamic in that sense, right? You have to write a new line of code, say cars now equals to this, then cars now equals to this. Okay, so each time you're losing the previous context and you are reinitializing the value. So that's another thing. But if you want something to be dynamic in nature, something that you've initialized, it should stay alive and in real sense get updated with the new content. So that's where vectors help us, right? So that's all in about the arrays, how they're supposed to work. Could be static in nature, could be dynamic in nature, and creating them and using them is really simple and straightforward game. Arrays could be of different data type, could be integers, could be strings, could be of mixed data types. Okay, it depends what we are working on. So primarily, we have to use array when we have to store a similar collection together. Could be the name of students, so we can create a array by the name of student names and then store as many student names we want in it. All right. So that's the main idea about how we use arrays. Now, okay. So that's how the for loop is supposed to work. I think I just walked you through in for loop. Okay. Okay, so why car.pushback is used is the question. So it is a built-in feature of vectors that you can insert new objects in real time, like in dynamic sense, you can insert new things. So this is a syntax. This is the way you call that method. This is the method name. So pushback is a method which is used to add new values or append values into your existing array. Okay, so that's primarily more about these things, right? So let us see if there are any further issues if someone has. uh okay, cool. Anyone? Okay. uh yes, you can imagine it to be like stack, right? Okay. All right, so okay, it's all clear. Great, students. Cool. So now let us check how do we do some further things. Like, it is good to know that sometimes, because when we have to loop something, okay, it is important for us to know what is the current size of the array. For an example, if I create an array, let me create a random array for you. Okay, suppose if I create something like this, the integer my numbers 10, 20, 30, 40, if I store it. Okay, now if I simply have to print it using for loop. Okay, let me get back to our previous code. Okay, or I'll just simply write it over here. So suppose we have an array and we want to find the size of this array. So for example, how do we do that? Let me comment this part for now. How to find size of the array. Okay. So it is very simple. Size of is the function name, and we will say cout. Okay, the array is equals to array size is equals to, we will say, and we will see out size of. Okay, this is the reserved keyword. Since we are using namespace, we do not need to mention standard in front of it, and we will simply say my numbers. Okay, now when we do it, ideally it will print the total size of the array. So let us see what it is supposed to do. Okay, so I'll just simply run it once. Okay, return 0 is still commented. Wait. Okay. So array size is 20. Now, isn't it interesting to see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements in it, right? So why exactly does it print 20? So it is interesting to know that uh, different data types will require different memory. For an example, here we are storing integers. Okay, usually integer type is of 4 bytes. Okay, so remember, students, or the disciples or the learners that are here today, remember that everything in terms of computer, when we say memory, it translates into storage space, right? Memory is nothing but storage space. We commonly work with MBs and GBs because whatever we work with could be photos, videos, movies, games. They are all in this size. But uh, something at the minute level could start from bits, bytes, okay, kilobytes. These are also space where programs can work. Could be in bytes or bits, okay. So an integer is basically of 4 bytes. That's what I'm telling you. So if you say 4 bytes for one integer, okay, hence 20 for a 5 integers, right? Because it is 5 uh, times 4 is equals to 20. That's the math that we are getting in the output, right? So remember, size of is a function which actually returns value in bytes. Like what is the size in bytes? So 20 bytes is the size. So how do we get size of an individual element, right? So, or what if we want to find actual number of elements in this array if we want it? Okay, so people from high programming level language experience, they will know that there are straight functions like dot length or len in Python. These functions, they help you simply get the number of elements in an array. But again, in C++, it is also simple, straightforward. The only thing is that suppose we have to find the array count of elements. Okay, suppose if we have to find this, so we simply need to use size of on my numbers divided by the size of again, interesting thing is, okay, since this is an array of integers, uh, we simply need to divide it by one individual integer. So remember, 20 divided by 5, this is what we are doing at this point, right? Or 20 divided by 4. So that's what we are doing here. So once we do it and we simply see out total elements is equals to, we then mention the array count of elements. And now when we try to run it, we see array size is 20. That's getting printed over here. Slash n run. So in the output, we see array size is 20 and there are total 5 elements in it. Okay. So that's how we work with finding the total number of elements which are available in this array and what is the size of this array, things like that, right? So I hope that was interesting, right? Now let us demonstrate a practical example. Maybe we want to create a program that calculates the average of different ages. Okay, so I'll just mention that. maybe average of 5 different subjects. Okay, so that's what we want to find. Like, what is the average that you have scored in 5 different trials? Maybe you gave 5 different runs of something. Could be you are writing 5 different mock tests. Okay, so we will say let us first use include iostream using namespace as standard. Close it. Then integer main, and then we'll create integer runs. Okay, so we are running 5 different runs. It's obviously a static array, right? Maybe these runs are assuming runs are out of 100 for each trial. Okay, so maybe first time we scored 67, 88, 92, 46, and 55. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 different trials are done. Okay, and now by this point you already have enough idea on how to crack this problem, right? We want to find the average of this. So one thing is sure, to find average we will have to basically do sum of all the scores, right? Because that's how average works. So whenever we have to solve any problem, we have to first devise a strategy before we can even code. Okay, so I have stopped coding at this point, and now I'm thinking about how to solve it. So thinking part, logic creation part, or building an algorithm around the problem is very crucial. And as a developer, you will realize, especially if you're into C++ developing, you will realize that you develop a lot of customized algorithms or customized solutions, right? So current problem statement at hand is to find average of 5 trials, right? So by default in mathematics, average is nothing but sum of all the iterations divided by the number of iterations. So we just right now we will revisit that problem, that how do we find the count of values in an array, right? By now, if you assume that we know it is 5, fair enough. But if we have to make it generalized, tomorrow there could be 8 trials, 10 trials, 20 trials. So we need to devise a strategy to get length of an array, right? So first of all, I'll need to find sum, then I will find the array, and then I will find size of the elements. Okay, so I'll create a float value because average and sum could be a float to begin with. So maybe like average and sum, I'll initialize them to be 0. Okay, then later on I'll fill in whatever the values are. I'll declare one integer I, which will help me again to walk around in this code, right? So first of all, let me create an integer by the name of length, which will store length of the array the way we have been doing it by now, right? We just did it in the previous iteration. So for example, integer length is size of. So size of what? So size of runs. So this will give me the average size of the complete array. Whereas I want count, so I'll have to divide it by size of uh, runs at the whatever element they're holding, size of that element. So this will give me the length to begin with, right? So now I have length with me, and now I need to loop through the array to find the sum, right? So for I'll say integer, I'll create an maybe run, because runs is okay. So run will work. So for run in runs, okay. Now we will be able to loop through it. So what we will do is we will simply append sum by the run value. Okay, so by doing this, what we are doing, we are adding sum with the each iteration, like 0 plus 67, then 67 plus 88, then that value plus 92, and so on, right? So that's what we are doing at this point. So if you see, we now have values like sum, which are completely filled with addition of all the elements. Then we have values like length, which is needed to find average, and now we simply need to find average. Okay, so average is nothing but sum divided by length, right? Okay, so that's what we will be doing here. Length. So we found average by doing sum divided by length, and now let us see out the average score is equals to, and then we print out the average. We close it. We return finally 0, and we are done with the code, right? So we have to quickly understand whatever we have done here. So we declared our array. We declared float right over here, right? We declared integer length. We found the length. Okay, find length of array, and then we run this part to sum. Okay, we sum the values, sum all the values, and this is the formula to find average. Okay, and then we will print the average. So once we run this, are we missing any? Yes, hashtag include IOStream, compilation terminated. Okay, so there's a typing mistake. IOStream, average score is 69.6. So that's pretty interesting, right? Things which look so simple require such thoughtful coding behind things, right? So whenever next time you are using any high level programming language, could be like Python, Java to begin with, appreciate the fact that just by writing a single value, like suppose if you're using pandas for data science and you're doing array.sum, okay, or we are finding some of the array, remember that these are the this a logic like this is being run at the background. Okay, uh, so because this is really interesting. So one of my friend who is not into computer programming, non-technical, uh, they had a notion that less number of lines of code would mean that uh, the code is less heavy. But remember that whenever we are using some built-in methods like dot sum or dot average or dot mean median mode, whatever you're doing, it doesn't mean that the code has become shorter, so it is now less executable, right? At the end, there are certain set of principles that have to run. So bare basics, to become a good programmer you have to understand that you have to be a good problem solver. Okay, so in every aspect of life you will have to be more rational, you have to think more and devise strategies. You are someone who builds algorithm, so that is much more needed. And I have already told this to all the people who I have mentored and trained, that do not run behind the fact that you have to practice a programming language. Because when I started, I was only practicing Python to begin with, and I didn't knew Node.js, Java, React, front and back end languages, and I was given work with these programming languages. So, which is where I mentioned to my mentor that, sir, I only know Python and I cannot do these things. That's where he gave me an eye-opening session that Gaurav, it's not about programming languages. They are just different way of expressing what we want. It is about the idea or the solution. Even if you take a pen paper and you're able to communicate to me. How do you solve it? I'll take up any junior who knows this language and help you write that code. So that's where I realized the potential that languages are not barrier. Languages can be learned in just a month or two. Okay, so even tomorrow if I have to start up with Node.js a project, and I'm given a sprint of 2-3 weeks, I can quickly brush up how Node.js works, and then I'm a developer on that part. Okay, so remember, that's a very valuable thought to keep in mind as a developer, that you have to focus more on problem solving. So with that, aspect, let us start some more interesting problems to be solved. Okay. So the first thing we will do is I'll give you one problem statement to begin with, right? So write a C++ program to find maximum and minimum. I hope the screen is readable, right? At least I can on my YouTube, let on my phone. Let me try to uh, look at it. Okay, even if I zoom in with my hands a little bit, I think this is readable to me. Okay, so this is fine. Let me open back the live chats. Okay. Uh, Let us write a C++ program to find the maximum minimum in an array. Okay. All right. So let me write a multi-line comment. The program should include, so following. Okay, let us make the problem like this. We'll ask the user the size of the array, number of elements to be stored. Okay. All right. Then basically we will simply find. Okay, let the user provide the values. Is there any other method to find the length? Well, there could be there we could customize more libraries to find length, but at the end, even if there is a method, it will boil down to do this task for you. Okay, it would be just a wrapper around this task to find length. All right. So let the user provide the values, and then we basically implement the function to find max and minimum values from it. Okay, and then print the values in the main function. Okay. So again, let us devise a solution around it. Okay. Solution. So see, we define a function. Okay. To basically, what does this function do? Which accepts an integer array, right? Okay. We initialize two variables to store max and minimum values. Okay. So how will we be able to find maximum and minimum values? That is something that we have to think about a little bit. I think the okay. Can anyone tell me what type of loop will be needed to work around here? Anyone? Let us see chats. Uh, how do we iterate here? Okay. Well, right. So it is pretty straightforward. Yes. So Ritu has come up with the correct answer. It is pretty straightforward. We have to loop it, right? So we iterate through the array and compare values for max and minimum. Okay, like we go from 0 to n minus 1 size. Okay, and we simply call this function, right? So for now, let us try to see how we can devise something around here. So first of all right, Okay, right. So hashtag include iostream, hashtag include limits. So again, this is a built-in library. It is required for numeric limit. Okay, we will use it for numeric limit method. Okay, so let us try to work around here. All right, so first of all we will create a function to find max and minimum, right? So void, remember, we are using void a lot because in this practice sessions we are not creating functions which actually return something, but mostly in practice you will find that when you're solving problems you will have to create functions which return a lot of things, right? So integer in, okay, and we will also be using the pointers or the location of I'll put it like we'll have variables, something like minimum value variable bana lete hain, and let us create a variable by the name of maxwell. Okay, so these are like the variables we have declared in the main function, like we will be declaring it somewhere, hai na? So that's about it. We will take an array, we'll take n, okay, and then we will okay, so also while loop for and for loop can be used, right? You guys are thinking right about it. So again, that will be interesting to know that how while loop can be used here. Maybe Venom, you can explain a little bit around it. That will be interesting to know. And yes, we can sort them. So sorting is again something about finding minimum and maximum multiple times, and sort will work around that principle only, right? So interesting. Sort is also one way, but again, sort kaise kare? Then you have to think about how do we sort. Okay, you have to pick up each value, compare it, find the minimum first, है ना? Then find the second minimum, then find the third minimum, then find the fourth minimum. That's how you sort. So okay, we can use nested for loops also. Uh, right. So see, the thought process here is that uh, to solve any problem, there could be multiple ways to reach, right? So that is why we always, when we develop different algorithms, we have to compare them, that which is the most optimal one. And yes, it could be possible that there could be different ways to do things. Like when you start learning about the data structures and algorithm, you will realize that even to sort something or to search something, there are multiple ways to do it, right? Okay. Okay, so try to write in the chat, Vanam. I want you to think about, explore, and learn what will be your while condition. So while condition is what that you should keep on looping. You think about that and write your code a little bit. Okay, all right. So let us try to think. Okay, we will. So as a good developer, you will become a refined developer once you start working with a tester. Or a tester is someone who will try to break your code a lot. So there could be cases which you will have to handle. I'll try to explain you like what can happen. So how do we handle edge cases? Okay, example, we received an empty array to begin with. How do we sort it? Okay, so basically what we will do is we'll have to use a if loop. So what is if? So if n is nothing but the size of the array. If n is less than equal to 0, although there couldn't be a negative array, but suppose if that's the case, we will simply use standard. So when you have to return an error, we use C error. Okay, CERR. So this is the error statement we will return. We will say error. Array size must be positive. Okay, and that's it. We will use basically we can compile here /n. Okay, now once we are done with it, we will simply return few things with it. We will return minimum value is equals to 0 and max value is equal to 0. Once this is done, we will simply return. Remember, जब भी return ये word आ गया, so return means that this function has done its task. Okay. Now, once this is done, the next idea here is to now initialize the minimum and maximum to find the first element, right? So let us initialize minimum and maximum with the first element. So we'll have to compare element by element, है ना? So suppose हम ये मान लेते हैं, we assume कि हमारी minimum value जो है it is at 0th index. Okay. So okay, wait. Minimum value is equals to what is our array name? It is ARR. So minimum value is the 0th index of array. Okay. So okay, I'll so if you look at the chat, so what Venom is writing there, while I equals to 0, I is less than equal to 100, then value is maximum, else no. Basically, what if what is I here, right? I How does it work around with your array? So I'll give you something in the chat, Venom. Okay, suppose your array is equals to this. It contains 5, 7, 8, 9, 2, 3. Okay, so how does while if I is equals to whatever you're writing, if I is equals to 0 and your condition. So how does this condition work with this array and give you minimum maximum? So that's what I'm telling you. You think about it. I'm not telling you you are wrong. I'm not telling you that stop thinking. In fact, I appreciate thinking. So think more and try to write a code with this process. Okay. You are on one of the brightest path, which is you have the capacity to think. Many of the people we have so many people live with us, right? Maybe they are just consuming content. Some of them already know the solution, some of them are following the solution, but I appreciate that you are thinking out of the books, out of the way. You're trying to use your brain. So I'll encourage, go ahead, try to write the complete solution and then find if it works or not. Okay. Now coming back, so we will say that we have initialized, say, the 0th value, whatever is at this 0th position, say that's the minimum value, say that's the maximum value. Okay. So that's also one way to look at it. Okay. So I'll have to close the statements correctly. Now once we have done that, so we will iterate through the rest of the array now, right? So iterate throughh to the rest of the array now. Okay. So let me add some more lines. Okay. So for loop. Okay. So for is the ideal iterator here, right? So for I is equals to 1 till what? Till the size of the array. Till I is less than n because iteration is n minus 1. One subtle thing that some of you might have already noticed till this point is that I'm not using I is equals to 0. I'm using I is equals to 1 to begin with because we already consumed array at 0. Okay, that's the point. So while I is less than n, we pre-increment. Okay, so once we follow this part, what will happen is there are two conditions we will check. Let us see how many of you can think about these conditions. I want to see what are these conditions. We'll have to do two different checks here. So we have Gaurav, Rushal, Venom, Ritu, Maya, Charan, right? Abraha, Bhaumik, and so many more people. Saini, Shiva, Granger, or so many more interesting people who can maybe come up with some chat response. So Ritu mentions it. Yes. So that's correct. I think you are already working as a junior developer, Ritu. The thought process is correct over there, right? So if we'll have to check two things: have we found a new minimum compared to the zeroth index, or have we found a new maximum compared to the zeroth index? So if array at I, okay, so if this array is less than the minimum value, okay, so we'll have to replace the minimum value with array at I, okay. So that's interesting, right? And we'll say we found the new minimum. Now again we'll have to loop again with an if loop. So if basically array at I is greater than the max value. So we have a max value, which is again the same value. So if array at this position is greater than the max value, in that case, we'll have to update the max value. So now the max value is equals to array at I, and we'll say we found the new maximum. So I will help you imagine this. Okay, I'll temporarily write here temp array. Okay, I will say integer temp array, say of uh, four values is equals to one comma or say 4 comma 2 comma 6 comma 7. Okay, all right. So yes. All right. So from here, let us try to imagine. सबसे पहले क्या है minimum and maximum value. Let me write it in comment over here. So अभी के लिए minimum value क्या है 4. Okay. So current value क्या है इसकी? Current value है इसकी 4. And here, what is the current value at this point? So the current value is 4 again because of this temp array. We are imagining if this was the array that we are working with. Now if we enter here and array at 1 की वैल्यू क्या हो जाएगी 2. Is 2 less than minimum value? Yes. तो ये लूप वर्क कर जाएगी at this point. So इसकी करंट वैल्यू 2 बन जाएगी यहाँ पर. Okay, it will update लाइन नंबर 31 का जो वेरिएबल है, it will update with 2. देन चेक करेगा इज 2 ग्रेटर देन 4. नहीं, तो ये लूप वर्क नहीं करेगी. इट विल गो टू द इटरेटर. अब दिस टाइम पे यहाँ पर आई की वैल्यू हो जाएगी I will become 2. So array at 2 will be something which will run, okay, and array at 2 run होगा इस वक्त. So what will happen there is array 2 पे क्या है 6. Is 6 less than 2? नहीं, तो ये लूप रन नहीं होगी. यहाँ पर याद रखो मैक्स वैल्यू में क्या पड़ा है, मैक्स वैल्यू में we still have 4. Is 6 greater than 4? Yes. तो करंट वैल्यू जाके यहाँ पर अपडेट हो जाएगी 6 in line number 32. Now we will loop for the third time, okay, which is in fact the last iteration, which is the value 7. Is 7 less than 2? No. Is 7 greater than 6? Yes. तो max value वापस अपडेट हो जाएगी 7 पे. So that's how this entire looping structure will work, okay. So I hope whatever I was trying to explain you got that logic, okay. So that's how this if loop and this if loop and this single for loop will help us find the maximum and minimum values, okay. So this is done. Max and minimum value, we will simply declare it, okay, in when we create the main function. So this is all about the void find maximum. All right, so once we're done here, now let us try to think about the integer main. So we go integer main, we open the function, we simply get the size of the array, okay. All right, so let us say we get array size from the user, that is enter the size of the array. Suppose I want 5 length array. I will enter scene over here. I'll take it from the user. If n is less than, we'll mention error right over here that you are not entering the current length. The length should be at least greater than 0, okay. So once this is done, we will let the user enter the values into our array, okay. So what we will do over here at this point is it's really interesting that we will dynamically allocate array. We could have used vector also over here. Okay, na? We know how to declare vector now. So we just simply need to write vector, integer, and array is equals to similarly the vector. In the for loop, we could also use this as cin to take values from the user. Again, using an asterisk over here makes this dynamic array. Okay, this time not just the vector but the dynamic array. Okay, but this is not as good as vector. Always use vectors for dynamic memory allocation. Okay, now we will get array element from each for the user, है ना? So for example, user has given us n is equals to 3. So what we will do at this point is that suppose we will enter n integer elements, okay, and for I equals to 0 till n, we will keep on taking inputs from the user, give us different values. This could have been hard coded, but this is we are maybe following and making it a more flexible code where user can give value. So we have minimum value. We'll create a variable by the name of minimum value. We'll create a variable by the name of maximum value. Okay. Now we will simply use what we will call our functions. Our function name is find max min. Okay, and we will pass again the current array. We'll pass the n, which is the size, and minimum value is a variable we'll pass. But remember, we are using the pointers over here with the and this is something you need not worry about. Basically, we are passing the path of this variable so that that particular function will know what this variable, where this variable is. Okay, for an example, इसको सिंपल में ऐसा समझ लेते हैं that suppose you are a pizza delivery guy. Okay, you are a delivery guy. You are like those buses in the motherboard architecture or in the dynamic memory. uh, you will be able to deliver things to locations you know. Okay, uh, don't imagine you have a facility like Google Maps or you have a facility like internet to learn things that where are new addresses. You only are able to go to addresses uh, on based on which paths I have given you. So if I'm giving you a new address, okay, minimum value and maximum value, I'm giving you the locations. So now you will be able to reach them. So that's what will happen in this part. Okay, minimum maximum value, we are letting this function find max minimum function know their addresses so that they can store value like on line number 31, 32 based on their address locations. For now, this is enough to know about pointers and memory allocation. Right. So we will call this function find max minimum. We will call this function, and this function will now remember this function is not returning us anything. Neither is this function printing anything. Uh, if you look at the problem statement which I gave you, the problem statement had a challenge that you have to print the values in main function. This was not simply a mere statement added there. This was also a challenge that you should not print something in the uh, auxiliary function which we have created. Okay, so that's why we used this logic. Okay, we will pass the address of the variables which are in the main function, and we will update the values, not print it over there. Now that we have printed, now we have updated the values, we can simply print the values. So let us go back and run print the values. So we'll see out minimum element and maximum element. Now remember, since C++ is a programming language which helps you dynamically manage many things, such as memory management. So after the use of your array, it is important to clean the array. Okay, clean the uh, dynamic memory allocation. So it is really important, and as a developer, you will also appreciate that if you are not managing dynamic memory correctly, or if there is any memory leakage in your code, you will run out of RAM. Suppose if you are running a solution on 8 GB, 16 GB, and n GB of RAM, and usually takes 4 5 GB of memory, the running memory, the dynamic memory to run. And if by default, there is some bug in your code which infinitely keeps on expanding storage, you will at some point run out of memory and your program will crash. So that's the point. Okay, sir. Actually, the problem I'm facing is that I can get the logic how to solve the problem. I have that in my mind, but how to implement it in a program? Like I'm a little confused because of my college. So at this point, teaching they uh, just made me more confused. So at this point, I'll tell you that one thing is that firstly you will need little bit of practice in whatever language you want to master. For example, अगर आपके पास कुछ thought process है, you have some ideas to work on in C++ and you are facing limitation to implement it. It's not the limitation of your thought process, it's the limitation of your vocabulary. Imagine it like this. Suppose that I'm a good orator. I can speak very well, okay? But the problem is I have to deliver my speech in English and मुझे इंग्लिश नहीं आती. तो नाउ इट डजंट मीन कि मेरा दिमाग नहीं है या मैं कोडिंग या मतलब कोडिंग एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ क्योंकि मैं बोल नहीं सकता. द प्रॉब्लम इज माय वोकैबुलरी इज लिमिटेड इन इंग्लिश. So that's the case that you're facing, Venom, right now. When you say, "Okay, sir, I have some logic in my mind, but I'm not able to write it." So the problem is कि आपको अब write करना अलग से सीखना पड़ेगा. You will not have to directly implement what your thought processes are, which is where certain boring bare basic exercises, right, like finding minimum maximum values, doing a lot of problems on lead code, starting up with W3 schools, Geek for Geeks, such websites, and solving mundane tasks, even to begin with print hello world. This could be a little boring, but this is where you start learning ABCD of your language. So once you will have to go through the process of learning the language on solving things where you're not using brain, you're using your practice to learn the language, you're memorizing the syntax, you're getting familiarized with writing concepts, then you will be able to implement that. Okay. All right. So, Richa, I think if you're not able to fill attendance, you will be able to connect with the team. They'll help you over there. Okay. Now, with that part, sir, can you repeat again? I cannot understand clearly. Uh, Bhaumik, you need to mention which part we repeat, okay? Like it couldn't be the entire code, right? Wherever you are stuck, tell us, we will repeat that part for you. Okay, so now we simply print out the minimum and maximum values and we are done. And I told you that we have to clean the dynamic memory. I also give you the importance of doing that. So we will simply use delete method. We will say delete the complete array. So this is how we delete an array, and we just simply return 0 to end the successful execution. Okay. So let me quickly go to the code share. Code share. And I'll paste this. Wait. Share. The link will expire in 24 hours. Just a minute, students. Okay, got it. So yes, you will be able to find this URL, which will be sent by the moderator soon. Okay, so this is where the entire source code will be. Wait, just a second. Close. Yes. So now let us execute it once. Yes. So the link is being shared in the chat now. Now enter the size of the array. Let us say I want a 5 length array. I will begin with say, okay, let me reload it. Let me run it. Size of the array 5. Let me enter integer 6, 9, 2, 7 3. So we have the minimum and the maximum value coming in, right? So that's how we can iterate over the array, find minimum and maximum values right over there. So if there are any doubts, let us see, let us know if anyone has any doubt till this point. Cool. Uh, in fact, Ritu, not just a session on JavaScript, we keep on doing so many sessions that Let's Upgrade could, from any walk of developer's perspective, right? Could be related to cybersecurity, could be related to UI UX development, could be related to front end, back end, data science, many more. So definitely on Let's Upgrade channel, you will be able to find many more such sessions coming in, right? Yes. So, yeah, of course, there will be DSA sessions also. In fact, Let's Upgrade definitely does DSA in C++ sessions a lot. So, if you stay tuned with the channel, you will be able to find many more such live sessions happening. Now, students, let me know if you still have the capacity and you want to take one more programming challenge that we can discuss and walk around. So give it in the chat that you want to do one more problem statement quickly with me, and we will do it. Or if you want that, if you want basically something more, okay. Of course, I'll just give one more problem statement. Yes. All right. All right. So for now, we will keep the problem statements more related to our current skill set, right? So let us try to do something which is to simply reverse an array, right, to begin with. All right, so cool. We'll simply terminate this. We'll do hashtag include iostream. Okay, and this time we'll do it little quickly. So there is one interesting library in C++ known as hashtag include, I'll say, algorithm library. Okay, so algorithm has many interesting things. Okay, so one reason that we will be using algorithm is for the fact that it will help us swap. Okay, it has a swap method. Okay, we will use it. So if needed, we will see to it. Okay, so first of all, let us create an main function. Okay, let us create a main function to begin with. So integer main. Okay, and here we will say so let us from the user again get the size of the array. And okay, so we will simply say that we'll take an integer n and enter the size of the array, and we will put it in the value of n. So remember, line number 13 to 17 is very simple. If n is less than 0, we return a standard error that invalid array size. Simply return the value to say that, okay, this part is done. Okay. Now, again, one thing is that what if the size is equal to 0? So if basically n is equal to 0, in this case, you simply need to return a very simple statement, okay, which is reverse and original both are of same thing, है ना? If there is nothing, it's an empty array. So original भी यही है, reverse भी यही है, right? So if not, then we need to simply write a method. By this point, let us appreciate what has happened. So by this point, we declared a variable n. We mentioned the user कि आप size बताओ of the array, how much values in this array we are going to put. So we are putting it in, we are storing it in the variable n. And if user entered negative, so that's not possible, है ना? Length could not be negative for an array. It could be either 0. So another case is कि अगर user ने 0 enter किया है, so we will simply print reverse भी है, original भी है. But now, apart from it, now we do not need to use any more if statement. The first two statements are handling all edge cases, negative wale bhi, zero wale bhi. Now we simply need to get into our coding logic, hai na? So what we will do is we'll simply print the original array once. So let us print the original array. Okay, this is the original array, we are printing it. So we are calling a print array method. We're passing array and the size. Okay, so currently we need to write one logic. So where is print array? We will write it. Okay, so I'll for now mention our return method to print array. Okay, we'll write it. So remember, this is what we will be using to print the array. Okay, now reverse array का भी एक function लगेगा, right? We'll have to write one more function, that is to reverse the array. A method to reverse the array again. So we have to make a modular code again over here. That is that maybe we will use reverse array. Let this be the function name. We will pass array and the size, how many elements are there. And again, to print the reversed array, we need not write any new logic. We will simply use the print array method. So we will say print reversed array. Reversed array is what? Print array के अंदर आप reversed array pass कर दो and it will be printed. Now, in order to handle the dynamic memory, what we need to do? We simply need to clean up the dynamic memory. So for that, we will delete the array that we created, just the way we did it in our previous code. Huh? So delete the array. Once this is done, return 0. And that's how our main function should look like. It's a very clean function. There's no fancy things happening here. Simply एक integer n लिया, user से size पूछ लिया, कितने elements भरना चाह रहे हो in the array. Then if the n is less than 0 or equal to 0, validate कर लिया. If not, we print the original array. If okay, and if we have to reverse the array, reverse it. But if you see, we missed one logic. We never initiated a code to actually take values. N तो ले लिया, but अभी n के अंदर array तो we will have to fill in, right? So enter the size of the array. Once it is done, we will cross check this part. Once this part is done, we will right over here, we will fill in the values. Okay, so to fill in the values, we will simply use the logic. Okay, ठीक है, enter so many elements into the array. So in order to do that, the logic remains same. We will use the for loop. Okay, so for integer I is equals to 0, I is less than n, whatever has been entered by the user, will increment I, and we'll simply say we'll take a C in. So C in array at I. Okay, so this is the way we will be filling in the values, and that's all right. Now we need to write two important methods for ourselves, right? So the first method is the print array method, which is very simple helper method. So हमने array ले लिया और n ले लिया. So for I in 0 to n, हमने बस print करते चले गए. That's it. We are doing cout, and we could simply even mention like this, है ना? Slash n. ये भी वही चीज है. So that's it. We are done, and this is what the void print array would do. Now we need to look into the reverse array logic. Okay, so for that, what we will do is simply the reverse array is nothing but for n less than equal to 1, we return. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? Okay, first of all, n is what this is given by user. So suppose user give 5, so we will start from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. जब हम पहुंच गए, nothing to be reversed now. अगर n 1 तक पहुंच गया तो the first thing is we will start from 0 और end को हम -1 से mark करेंगे. Remember what start and end is like. This is the 0th index of array, and here if you see this is the last index of array. Okay, so while start is less than end, we will start from the initialized point. ये array कितना भी बड़ा हो, but जब तक we are still less than end, we will swap elements. We'll use the swap method. So from where swap method is coming in, we directly use the built-in library this time, okay? To swap arrays, start or end के बीच, we'll keep on swapping. We'll keep on swapping like that, okay? And we will increment start and decrement end. So ऐसे से क्या होते जाएगा? Suppose if the start was 0 and the end was 4, next iteration में start 1 हो गया है और end 3 हो गया है. Next iteration में start 2 हो गया है और end भी 2 हो गया है. So this time start is not less than 2. So it will simply return at this point. So this is how swapping will work. Else अगर आपको swap नहीं लिखना, so you can, if you don't have to use a built-in function swap, you can simply rewrite the array at that given index. Okay, so array at 1 will now be एक temporarily third variable declare कर लो, third variable में एक value store करो and then swapping कर लो. Even that is possible. Okay, so remember students, if you are freshers, है ना, if you are in college and you are doing that, many questions related to swapping, sorting, searching will be asked in interviews as a backend developer. So you can think about these values. So again, overall, this is how the logic of swapping would work. Okay. So what we will do is we will simply run this part. We will simply run this part over here. Let us run it. And as soon as we run it, we will say maybe size is 4. Okay. I'll say 4. And okay, let me reload. My keypad was not working at this point. Run, and here we go. So say the size is 4. Enter 4 elements: 6, 2, 3, 5. Okay, so 6, 2, 3, 5 is the original array, and 5, 2, 5, 3, 2, 6 is the reversed one. Okay, now before we go in, I like to give you one more interesting challenge that you can take up. Okay, so I'll mention the problem statement also in the main function, or let me create a new code share. Okay, I'll start share code now. So this will be again one more takeaway. Okay. Let me try to give you one problem statement where you have to guess the number of characters. You will have to do the total number of characters, total number of letters, total number of digits and spaces in a given sentence. This will be interesting use case to solve. I'll give you a solution around it, and you can simply use it for now. Okay, try to look into the problem statement and try to solve it on your own. So again, I'll share one more code source with you. Simple text analyzer. Okay, and let me show you how a simple text analyzer is supposed to work. So for an example, if I give you any input statement, okay, let this function load up. Hello, 1, 2, 3, mic, check, exclamation, 1, 2, 1, 2, okay. So if I give you any statement, you have to analyze the text. There are how many characters? So there are total 38 characters in this part, okay? Out of the how many are letters? So 15 are letters. In fact, you can check that. Digits kitne? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 digits print ho gaye. How many white spaces? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 spaces over there. And how many letters are found? C to L. So this is your vocabulary of characters that you are using, right? Can you please explain the class success specifier with example and also the programs of inheritance? So, Richa, of course, for that we will definitely share a bootcamp dedicated for object-oriented programming, right? So, make sure that you first of all stay tuned with Let's Upgrade. And when I talk about there will be a program, it's not that it will be it will take a lot of time. We keep on doing multiple live sessions on regular basis, so you will, it's a high chance you will find a boot camp for object oriented programming soon. Okay, so keep following there. I think we are done for the day. Thank you so much for staying tuned. By now, uh, you might have completed your attendance. Now, the certification that you definitely deserve should be awaiting you, right? Yes. There will be a class specifically, like a session specifically for object-oriented programming, where we will talk a lot about classes and objects, and we'll also keep on doing hands-on around them. Okay. So, if there are any other doubts, we can see. Yes. Yes, of course. In fact, you will realize that we are using is alpha somewhere around here. Is digit is space and is numeric. We will be using such things in this code. Okay, you can utilize them. This is again just a solution to help you solve this problem. But I want you to solve this problem on your own. Take inspiration from here. Okay, I think we can stop the live now. I see no more doubts coming in. So it was interesting being with you for this 3 day session. I thoroughly enjoyed such enthusiastic audience. Thank you. Bye bye. Tata. Sayonara.